So here we go, best looking aero bike. Boy has it been a busy week. We've had 4 new aero bikes hit the market. We'll have a quick look at them all, have a quick look at the competition. Just before I do that, the other big news this week is that Chris Froome has been given the all clear. So currently he's now racing the Tour de France. The time I'm making this video, the second stage has just finished. So as far as I'm concerned, good that he's riding, bad that it's taken this long to sort it out, but hey ho, I'd rather he was riding than not riding. That's that. Let's move on. Aero bikes. Is an aero bike the fastest bike you can buy? No, because obviously you've got time trial bikes which are faster than aero bikes. So basically all bikes are a balancing act of compromises which are basically governed by what you use them for and how comfortable the rider wants to be. So obviously a time trial bike like this from BMC, which wins a lot of time trials at the moment, is very specific against the clock. Plus the fact these bikes, or all bikes that are raced, are governed by the UCI rules, and a time trial bike comes under different rules to an aero bike or a climbing bike. And if you look at a time trial bike that isn't governed by the UCI, so a triathlon bike, you can see that they're trying out all sorts of new stuff. And it's pretty funky there, looking a bit like Judge Dredd's bike. That bike can't be used in a UCI race as far as I know, not a road race or a time trial. So this gets used by triathlon riders, Ironmen I guess. Apologies if you can hear my fan going on in the background. It's absolutely roasting here today, and if I didn't have it on I'd literally be dead by now. So in the interest of getting this video made, I thought, well, I have to leave it on. Moving swiftly on, the first bike I've got in the list, because we are looking at a BMC right now, is the new Timemachine Road 011 from BMC. And here she is. First thoughts, it's very BMC. It's got the angular shapes going on. Disc brakes obviously. It's got that little flare or whatever you want to call it coming off the forks, guiding the air across there, which is a bit of a thing these days. All the cables are hidden away, not 100%, but there's a move away from one-piece handlebars to aero bars that look like one-piece handlebars, but that you can adjust the angle a wee bit. I know the new Venge allows you to do that. Not sure about this one, but it looks like it should do. And then let's have a look at the elephant in the room. We've got some plasticky inserty thing here. And when I first saw this, I immediately thought of Gianni Rico from Starship Troopers, and I think this is the bike he would ride into battle with his little water bottles tucked in there. Supposedly makes them more aero, and I think you can get an inner tube and a toolkit in there, much like the Specialized Roubaix, which has its little luggage holding plastic device, which in the previous video I pointed out that I didn't like. And do I like it on here? Blah. Jury's out, can't decide. I'll have to wait until I see one in real life, I think. Apart from that, maybe I could have done with a slightly more exciting paint scheme from this angle, but apart from that, I think it's a pretty handsome looking bike, really. So yeah, gonna hold my judgment on this one a little bit. So next up, let's have a look at the 2019 Venge, which has just been released. Boom. If we just flip between that and the BMC, quite a different stance here at the front. Similar setup at the back, and immediately here looking at the Venge, what you'll notice is it's a fat tarmac, and obviously fat in one direction because presumably from the front, if anything, the Venge is going to be thinner, I would think. Again, I'd have to wait and see, but I thought that was quite an interesting comparison. If we just zoom in here, they've gone for the sort of Propel thing where the cables are coming in here, maybe widened up this head tube. As I was saying earlier, it looks like a one-piece aero bar, but you can actually adjust the handlebars, so that's quite a good step forward, I think. Again, very similar to the tarmac at the back here, except just stretched out. So it'll be interesting one day whether the tarmac and the Venge, whether you actually need both of them. Perhaps one day we'll get to the point where they can make it light enough and stiff enough or whatever to just have one bike. The Venge Mac. Cool. Specialized will be super excited right now because yesterday in the first stage of the Tour de France, Fernando Gaviria of the Quick-Step team on his new Venge managed to take the win and the yellow jersey, all on his new Venge, so that was great for Specialized. And then they'll be even more super happy because they've now released the Sagan colour scheme for the new Venge, and lo and behold, today in stage 2 of the Tour de France, Sagan won it on this very bike. So Specialized are going to be chuffed to bits. Do I like it? Do I prefer it to the BMC? Well, another thing I just wanted to look at was if you compare it to the 2018 Venge, it's actually quite different. So the 2018 Venge is quite a lot more curvy. Apart from the fact I don't like this area here, and they have cleaned that up and made that look better, I do kind of miss a little bit this curvy bit here. So yeah, maybe there'll be some good deals to be had on the 2018 Venge now, because yeah, I think that's still a good looking bike. Okay, so that's 2 out of 4. Let's move on to what actually was the first new Aero bike to be released this week, and that was, ta-da! The Cannondale System 6. And if we just compare that with the Venge, the new Venge, you can see where they're all going with these bikes. Very similar kind of direction. And actually System 6 is a name that Cannondale have used before, and that was on this bike. Not sure when that was from, but some of you may have owned one of those. Let me know in the comments down below if it was any good. But this is the new one. Let's just zoom in here. Compare that to the Venge. Similar-ish. Again, we've got this kind of flaring out here to direct the wind. Presumably that's a more aero thing. And when I first saw this bike I thought, ooh, yeah, that does look good. But the other thing I immediately thought of was this bike, the ARFD from Felt. And this area here kind of came to mind a little bit. Maybe it's just because it's a bit thicker, but thought I'd just show that. Don't like the front end of the Felt. That looks very old-fashioned now. Yeah, again, jury's out a little bit. I want to see one in real life, but does it already look a bit old-fashioned around here? I'll probably get shot down in flames for that. But the other thing that sprung to mind that I'm not mega keen on, and again, you'll probably all kill me for this, but this bit here, I'm not sure about this. What I actually thought of straight away was Tweedledee, with that little gut sticking out there. Again, real life, it might look amazing. What else is there to say about this? There's some good videos on YouTube of people testing the bike out. There's a lot of talk about the aerodynamics. There's a lot of talk about the wheels being optimized aerodynamically now with very wide internal rim measurement. So it'll all come out in the wash and we'll see how it stacks up, I'm sure, over the coming months, and in fact throughout the Tour de France, because they're being used by the Drapac team. So there we have it, that's the Cannondale System 6. Just noticed that the Cannondale logo on the side here is completely obscured by the chainring, so it's actually an Annandale. They should have not done that. Okay, so that's 3 out of 4, and last but not least, the final release this week that I've seen is this bike. The Trek Madonne SLR. Now, I've done quite a few videos on the old Madonne. Let's have a look at that one there. And I'm not a massive fan of this bike, as I've pointed out before. But this one, which does look similar, I like this one. They've ironed out some of the things I didn't like. So I didn't like the shape of this handlebar here. That's now gone. I didn't like the headset bit round here. I didn't like any of that. That looks much cleaner now. Look how fat these forks are. That's very cool. That's presumably taken advantage of the new UCI rules. And she looks like a beaut. Apparently it's got a new ISO speed decoupler system in there that you can adjust to make it more flexible or not, which is all good. Still not 100% about the old seat post here. I did moan about this one. I said that looked horrible. And though this one they've obviously worked on it, it looks better. Quite like the seat post clamp. I don't know why it needs to be there, but presumably it's part of the ISO speed thing, but I don't know. That, my friends, is a good looking bike though. There's a good video on YouTube by Bike Radar where they do a good test on this bike, and he's riding this one, and I love this colour scheme. think that looks really cool. So look that up, check that out. I've seen them using it in the Tour de France on the first 2 stages, and it does look pretty cool. Just fingers crossed that they can actually win some races with it, because Trek really don't perform as well as you would imagine that they should in the pro peloton. I'd really like to see them pick up their game a little bit. But let's compare that to the System 6, beg your pardon, not the Super 6. The System 6. Yep. I'd be going for the Trek there, I think. Let's compare it to the Venge. Do you know what? I never thought I'd be saying this, but I almost prefer that to the Venge, I think. Gosh, I'm very surprised by that. Let's compare it to the BMC. Yeah, I prefer it to the BMC as well. Of course, it might be just because they got the tan walls on it, and we all know how much I like the tan walls. So there we have it, that's the new Madonne, and I think that's a cracker. So I just wanted to have a quick look at the competition, just so we know what's out there. Obviously we've got the Propel from Giant. I've done lots of videos on the Propel, and I'm a big fan of the Propel, but this one, I really don't like the colour scheme, and actually styling wise, now these new bikes are out, I'm going to look forward to what Giant do with the Propel. Let's wait and see. While we are on the Propel, I saw a picture the other day, I think it was off a video on YouTube again, of someone looking around their new Propel, and the spacers they had on the get the stack height up, it just looks diabolical, and with that funny stem, it's not cool. And the first thing that came to mind was Robocop's foot. That's what it looks like. They've just taken Robocop's foot out the parts bin, turned it upside down, and stuck it on the Propel. So come on guys, we need to sort this out. That's yep. So that's the Propel, and next up, Aeroad from Canyon. Done lots of videos on the Aeroad from Canyon. Maybe it is because I've done lots of videos on it, and again I'm going to get killed for this, because obviously lots of you are going to own this bike. It's looking a bit tired now, I think. I suspect Canyon will have something on the drawing board. Hopefully they haven't already released it and I've missed it, but with its cable sticking out there, it's time for an update on the Aeroad. So let's watch this space, see what happens there. Foil from Scott. Again, I suspect Scott will be working on a new bike, because that's probably fallen a bit behind as well. And next up, the Reacto. The Reacto is a pretty good looking bike. I quite like that. Look how thick these forks are on the Trek though. They're definitely taking advantage of the new rules, so presumably all the bike manufacturers are going to get on board with that. And in fact, I think it was GCN made a video the other day where they talked about why the pros weren't always using Aero bikes, but in fact Vincenzo Nibali, however you want to say it, won Milan San Remo on the Reacto. I guess there's not a massive amount of climbing in that, but that was a great race. Look it up, give it a watch. So that's the Reacto. Next up, the 3T Strada. Now, that doesn't look good, does it, in this picture? I'm going to give it the benefit of the doubt, because I've watched quite a lot of racing with the Aqua Blue Sport team in it, and actually in the footage on the TV it actually looks quite cool really. I've not seen one in real life yet, but in that picture, no, not looking cool. The Bianchi Oltre XR4, yeah, that's all I'm going to say about that one. Last but not least that I've got in my list here is the Orbea Orca. Ironic now that Sky are riding the Tour de France with an Orca on the back of their shirt. Orbea missed that one. And in fact, this picture here, it looks like on their website you can choose your own colours for the bike if you order it off the website. And I quite like this green. But I had this in a previous video and I like it. I think it's cool. So there you have it. 4 new Aero bikes in 1 week. The Madonne SLR, the BMC Timemachine Rodo 1, the Venge 2019 from S-Works, and the System 6. And out of all of them, it's probably the System 6 that had the most media coverage, I think. But I'm actually gonna say that I like the Trek, and that's unusual for me to say that. So there you go, all you Trek fans out there. And then just before I finish this video, I did a video a while back where I think it was called Best Looking Road Bike. I merged them all together to have a look and see what you get, and I quickly did that on this one just because people seemed to like that last time, and it's quite interesting to see what you get. And when I first looked at it, I thought, ooh, that looks just like the Venge, but actually not entirely. So we have kind of generated a new bike there, which I think is quite interesting. So when you take all the manufacturer's ideas, put them all together, average them out, that's what you end up with. So there we go. Just while I'm here, if there's any people from bike manufacturers watching, my dream for this channel is to one day actually test these bikes in the flesh. So please do contact me at the link below, and I'll give you my address and you can send me some of these bikes and I can test them out. So that'd be great, thank you. Apart from that, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel.